Okay, onwards we go. We've got an entire world to explore. Sooner or later, we've got to find where we need to be to make progress around here. Yeah, doesn't look like we've cut a way into that walled area from behind. It's not like this ship is allowed to set down on the actual ground. It's only allowed to set down in the water. Okay, definitely have to call bullshit on this. It's not that we have to land somewhere. We specifically have to fly in a spot that we have no hope of ever landing on? So a cutscene will shoot our airship down? How are you supposed to know that ahead of time? And we're dropped in a spot that's between two armies that aren't even actually fighting now that we're actually here. The left side has people in the Dark Knight armor that's recolored red, and the right side has Dark Knights with no color change whatsoever. I'm sure this was something interesting to drop in the middle of, but I don't think this game can pull it off in terms of narrative or graphical ability to showcase a battle sequence. What? We're not allowed to go through the arch to the north? Well, to be fair, we've already been allowed into two other castles in this adventure. And, can one of you guys tell me why the hell there seems to be a civil war going on just outside of this castle? One where both sides seem to not actually want to fight one another, and the only real fighting we saw was when they shot us out of the sky when we aren't even involved in this conflict. Okay, so this city is large enough that it has several districts within it. I suppose that's rather unique. In both Final Fantasy 1 and 4, every town was just one area. I'll be interested to see how long it takes for the series to once again do more than one area for a city after this game. Can you at least tell me what started the meaningless fighting? And what's this about a dragon spire? Are you assuming that I'd somehow get some information before we even got here about what it might be? This is my first time in this city, after all. I have no clue where I am or what I'm supposed to do just yet. All I know is that I've lost an airship for the third time in this game so far. The first time was kinda funny, a suicide slam into a rock. The second time was weird, chained to an island that didn't exist before. And this time just feels like total bullshit no matter how I look at it. It's not even like I'm emotionally attached to our ship. It's just that the game has played the card of removing our mobility way too many times. And there's a chance they'll do it again whenever we get to another unknown point of no return. There are just an obscene number of points of no return for a game that has a bare-bones excuse plot meant for us to go on an adventure with no character interactions or broad strokes plot progression. Good to know that there are 4 districts, but I'd rather know why there seems to be a civil war going on. And also why we need to worry about a monster called Garuda soon. Well, not the most charming look for the big guy, but again, the art direction for this game as a whole feels oddly directionless to me. Possibly because this game was kind of damage control after the not-so-well-received Final Fantasy II. They knew they made some missteps. The gameplay and story decisions they made for that one just didn't capture the audience as well as the first Final Fantasy. So for a lack of a better way to put it, this game was a bit of a stumbling step, trying to both move forward and go back to what they felt worked the first time. The mechanics are a step in a good direction that would be further refined in Final Fantasy V. but since they didn't know how to fully go about it just yet, it comes across as kinda iffy. The story is trying to both be simple and to be more complicated, which is pretty tough to pull off, and I just don't feel like they did a good balance for this story. There are interesting things that I wish they did more to explore, and other things I feel make things feel more silly or serious than they probably intended at the time. Oh god, more golden bastards. Not that I'm scared of dealing with them, I was just hoping we were done with the color gold in this game. They certainly didn't look like knights of any kind outside of the battle screen after all. Yeah, not even vaguely knight-like here. Well, if the prince is getting randomly beaten up in his own home city, that certainly implies the kingdom is going to hell. Wait, so the army is fighting against their own countrymen simply because the king said, you guys wear red, you guys wear blue, and fight it out for the sake of it. I'm sorry, but that sounds like grounds to do a coup. Even the most authoritarian governments I can think of would not go that far into impulsive insanity. Again, I know the story in this game isn't going to be anything amazing, but it's funny how in some ways it manages to go below my expectations. They're just proven that at this point, they don't have the writing skills to do much better than the original game. It's kind of hard to fault them for trying, though, because, well, the series does grow from here. I'm sorry, but if you didn't want to be noticed, why the hell are you wearing your crown and cape? Granted, Carmine is wearing a crown and cape as well, and he isn't in any way royal. Still, the prince isn't doing all that good of a job at being subtle. Especially since he was outright calling himself the prince when those thugs were bullying him. I don't suppose your father gave you a reason why you were kicked out of your home, did he? Because even for a king, this sounds like he's got way too much unquestioned authority. Well, we've certainly got plenty of money at this point in the game. Seriously, I want to be able to see if I can get some upgrades to our armor. And if we choose to change our class, I want to be able to give our characters the best armor we can get for this stage of the game, considering how hard the hits are coming. But no, we're not allowed to buy anything other than weapons and healing items until we complete the next phase of the story. Any particular reason other than the king being an asshole? Seriously, we're just blocking things off for the sake of making things annoying for the player. And this isn't a point in the game when we're forced to deal with things here because our airship has been removed from us for the third time. Okay. Apparently there's a lot to grab in the Southwest. Not that we know how to get any of that stuff. It might all be items we're not allowed to even try to grab until we're already through the next story beat. Wait, we're not allowed into that random alley. Just why? Ah, so now that's a good number of chests in here. And we're getting absolutely nothing but chocobo feed in here. in a building where the fat chocobo can just come for free and we don't have to feed him at all. What the hell? The dungeon with the room with mostly golden swords was one thing. That could have been considered part of a gag. But this just feels like the game designers had some kind of quota for how many chests they had to put into the game. Which feels especially weird considering some of the rooms and dead ends that have no items in them whatsoever. I suppose for the Pixel Remaster that makes the achievement of opening all the chests more difficult, but game achievements did not exist back when this game was originally released, and I have seen no sign online that this game's item placement was in any way changed from the original release to the Pixel Remaster. So, only one weapon store is open, and it only has 2 very expensive spears that can only be equipped by a dragoon. Well, at least the armor from a knight can work as a dragoon's armor in this game, but we only had one character who is dressed in that much armor. And if we do class changes for the other 3, then we're gonna end up with people who are woefully under-armored considering we're not allowed to buy any fresh sets. Ugh, holy shit, that is bad. It's funny how that feels far more infuriating to me than anything else involving the gameplay of this game. Seriously, the boss fight against Hein in the floating tree fortress is supposed to be one of the most frustrating things in the game, the sort of thing that in the 3D remake is where all the momentum forward goes to die, as you're stalled out trying to deal with that frustrating gimmick. But messing with the stores later in the game when you have landed in a point of no return? That is somehow a deal breaker for me. Dear God, I have no clue why something like that feels like it's such a fucking punch to the dick to me than anything else. And that makes me interested to play through a game with little to no equipment in it when we're done with this game, just to see if some corner of my brain just likes dealing with inventory management on some level, even if I don't seem to always be particularly good at it. But that'll probably have to wait, since I'm already kind of committed to Let's Playing Final Fantasy V when we're done with Final Fantasy III. The evolution of the class system feels absolutely amazing to me, and I'm surprised that the mainline Final Fantasies never did anything more with it after the 5th game. Yeah, the prince not wanting to be found and being exiled really didn't last long at all. Whew, that exile was so pointless they shouldn't have even bothered. He didn't even actually have to do anything to get the exile lifted, just walk back home and that's it. Even for a bare-bones story, that is just... dear God, what were they thinking? Even the story beats with Rydia in Final Fantasy IV had more time to develop than this. This was literally solved the moment we learned it might be an issue. No, the screen didn't shift to black, so I assume none of the party fell asleep there. I'm pretty sure you already know the answer. He's somehow been possessed. It was certainly implied to have happened to that Hein guy earlier, before he was a trusted advisor for that kingdom, but oh good God. Saying a line like, "There isn't a parent in the world who doesn't care for their child." Yikes. I've seen a few cases in real life where that is not the case, and let's leave that there. And there's also plenty of cases in fiction where that's not the case either. And apparently it's a moot point since the king literally tried to knife his own son in his sleep. Dear God, that is just... what is with the writing around here? Right, so the king is being mind-controlled, and nobody seemed to do anything about it until the party arrived. The Chancellor is in charge, and the king only got enough willpower to free himself when he was ordered to kill his own son. I know that's supposed to be a moment of awesome for the king, but we've only just met him, and we only just learned he was going crazy / being controlled in this clip. Hell, that kind of sums up the game as a whole, really. There are some surprisingly good story ideas in here, but since the game doesn't really think that much about storytelling in general, it doesn't give any of those moments time to build up or breathe, which is kind of a shame. Well, at least this Birdman doesn't seem to have any resistances to magic. Azul and Midori are going to be able to pour the hurt on here, at least to a degree. Whew, wow, Carmine is doing the most damage here. Granted, we were told that Dragoons would be super effective against Garuda, but I wasn't expecting to see that kind of 4-digit damage number from a single strike. Seriously, this game just doesn't seem to like the idea of the player trying to do things in a way that is off-script. They want you to have just the right party composition at just the right time. The way they handled the class system implies that there's freedom of choice, but the boss fights are designed to make you pull out a strategy guide because it can be absurdly unforgiving. Speaking of unforgiving, holy shit. One wrong move and we are absolutely screwed. Have I mentioned that sometimes this game feels about as rough for me as a Shin Megami Tensei game? I did not know what I was in for when I first decided to go through this game. The people I talked to said that for the most part the game is easy until you get to the absurdly long final dungeon. And I have been getting absolutely humbled in several moments through the game, starting from the goddamn griffin inside the chest in the first castle of the first area. Okay. Brett isn't gonna have anywhere near the kind of armor that Carmine does, but considering how hard Garuda hits, I'm not even sure that even actually matters at this point. Please don't tell me I need to have absolutely all 4 of the team as Dragoons and just have everybody jump constantly in order to bring them down fast. I may like that class in general, but I'm not a fan of the idea of having an entire team that's all the exact same class. I'd prefer something more balanced. But as is, it doesn't really feel like strategy really matters all that much. The player isn't really all that needed to do all that much in the way of input. Just dress everyone in the right way and then let them repeat the same things over and over again. Which feels like part of my complaint with Final Fantasy XIII. And great, now that I think about it, that's actually not much of a complaint. There's a lot of repetition in pretty much every game in every genre. And in games that go over 5 hours long, it gets harder and harder to ignore. Anyway, we're done with the conversations that we absolutely had to go through since last time. Let's see how we handle ourselves with 2 Dragoons now. Yeah, the only offensive option for a white mage is Arrow, even this far into the game. Hence why I kind of want to stick with the red mage instead of going to a pure white mage. So far, I haven't paid for that since we haven't strictly needed more healing spells for a very extended fight. Not even in the boss fights, so while the red mage wasn't really made to be in any way optimal, I still kind of like it in this game, and I'm pretty sure I am not meant to. Oh dear. We're definitely taking way more damage than I'd like, even for the characters who are actually wearing armor. Either we finish this fast, or we're getting ruined. Again. Bloody hell, Azul's down and Midori is one hit away from death. Yeah, that was way too close for comfort, and that was the rematch when I did a bit more to prepare for the bastard. And that easily could have gone badly, even though we had 2 Dragoons hitting for obscene amounts of damage. It seriously feels like the game cares less about your skill, equipment, and level than it does about your party makeup. And that is not something that I consider especially fun. And we've got another character dead. This game has a surprising casualty list considering it's trying to be pretty whimsical for the most part. Oh, sorry, I'm sure this is supposed to be an emotional moment for you, but I just can't feel a damn thing for it. I get the feeling that the people aren't gonna complain too much about the change in Monarch. Not after all the crap that the king did while he was being controlled. By the way, this might be asking for too much, but is there any chance that the new king here can get us another airship? I also wouldn't be against the new king healing us after we killed the bastard that was ruining your kingdom for no apparent reason. Right, apparently that's too much to ask for at the moment. Bloody hell, Gerudo certainly wasn't a pushover. Understandable considering how far into the game we are right now, but still. Huh. It's kind of funny that the warrior class could equip just about everything that the knight can, except for one sword. For some reason, I was expecting the warrior to be left further behind or something. Apparently, nobody bothered going through any kind of coronation ceremony. Not that it would be likely to be all that awesome with the graphics we have to work with around here, but still, it would have helped give the prince something more to make him memorable somehow. Hell, I can't even be bothered to remember his name as we talk to him. Much like the elven prince in the first game, all I really care about is that he is a prince and there are no other princes in this game. And while I do remember the name of Princess Sarah, and of Arya and Desh, it's not like the game really did anything with them either. So yeah, being a named character just doesn't make you important in this particular story.